The biking world has seen a lot of controversial innovations over the years. From linkage suspension forks to through-your-stem cable routing, there are a lot of things that have looked great on paper, but were a different story in the real world. One such innovation, which actually saw some short-lived success, is Plus tires. Coming in around 3 inches in width, these high-volume tires promised loads of traction, the ability to float over soft surfaces, and a smooth ride. But after only a few years and having a spot in basically every brand's lineup, their popularity suddenly took a nosedive and most models got the axe. There are some brands keeping Plus tires alive, but aside from Surly, Jones, and a few others, most are boutique manufacturers with limited production capabilities. As a massive fan of 29 Plus and high-volume tires in general, I think there are a few reasons this all happened, and in this video, I'm going to break down my thoughts on how the bike industry just got Plus tires all wrong. So let's get into it. Before jumping into how the greater industry just totally missed out on a good thing, I want to talk about a couple of the reasons that I love Plus tires. First, the traction and grip from a high-volume tire makes your bike more capable and creates a more confident ride feel. Whether the trail is soft and sandy, smooth and hard-packed, or a rocky creek bed, your tire floats, sticks, and rolls through just fine. The rolling through and over is the second thing that I love, as a 29 Plus tire is not just wider, but also taller, and you're able to roll over rocks and roots and other obstacles much easier. If you're someone who made the jump from 26 to a 29er, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It makes it easier to maintain momentum and get through obstacles that you may have struggled with on a shorter setup. There are more reasons than just these two, but for me, these are probably the most important and beneficial. Now I know this video might seem like it's beating a dead horse, or maybe it's 5 years too late, but it's something that's been on my mind since I used some uber-wide Jones carbon rims with some 29 by 3¼ wide Duro Cruxes last fall. So let's jump into my thoughts on what caused people to quickly abandon these mid-fat tires. First up, tire pressure. Unless you're really into racing or just obsessed with mountain biking, I doubt you've really thought all that much about your tire pressure. It's probably something you kind of figured out on your first few rides with a new bike or a new set of tires, and then just kept pretty constant over time. That's kind of how high-volume tires work, but I'm willing to bet the majority of people who tried them were running their pressure way too high. Coming from a fat bike background, pressure is something I'm keenly aware of because snow is unforgiving and even a single PSI can make a huge difference. So when I first started riding 29 Plus, I was constantly adjusting my tire pressure to go as low as possible without too many rim strikes and too much self-steer. Years later, I've settled on running tire pressures closer to full fat setups instead of mountain bike tires. For example, with a 29 by 3 inch tire and at well over 200 pounds, I run anywhere from 12 to 14 PSI in the rear and 11 to 13 in the front. If you ride bikes a lot, that might sound ridiculously low to you, but the exponentially larger volume of Plus tires doesn't take all that much air to ride right. So what happens when you run too high of pressure? It creates a bouncy and harsh ride, kills your traction, and decreases float. Basically, you not only get rid of every benefit to a Plus tire, but you add a whole bunch of negative ones too. In my opinion, the entire industry, from the bike companies to the tire manufacturers and even bike shops, just didn't do enough education on the right pressure for Plus tires. So instead of getting the true Plus tire experience, a whole bunch of people had a terrible bouncy time and the demand for Plus bikes dropped. The second but related reason comes down to rim width. Wide tires do a great job of giving you some extra float, but rim width plays a vital role on the overall ride feel and what pressure you can run. The right width should be wide enough to support the sidewall at lower pressures and when cornering, but not so wide that the tread gets all squared off. In my experience, a 45mm internal rim is the perfect width for Plus tires. It's narrow enough to run a 2.8, ideal for a 3.0, and it's still wide enough for a 3¼ inch tire if you happen to have one on hand. When Plus tires first came to market, there was still a big focus on saving weight, and if you didn't know, wider rims and bigger tires aren't exactly known for being light. Despite that, some brands kept the rim nice and wide, But a lot tried to save some weight, and we got a ton of 3-inch tires on 30 and 35 millimeter internal rims. 10 millimeters might not sound like much, but I recently tested those Jones Carbon rims, and the shape of the tire was noticeably different despite only being 4 millimeters wider than the alloy rims I had been using. The narrower rims that came stock on many bikes led to folding sidewalls and squirrely handling that people then tried to fix with, you guessed it, higher tire pressure. There's been a change in how weight is perceived in the last few years, recognizing there are some upsides to things that can add some grams, and I can't help but think that had Plus tires come to the market with this mindset, they might have survived. The third and final reason is the application was all wrong. Most of bike media is pretty focused on racing or riding as fast and shreddy as possible, an area I can fully admit Plus tires aren't really the best for. Like their fat cousins, there's more rolling resistance, requiring more power output, as well as a bit of a gyroscopic effect that makes the tire want to keep going straight. But despite what you might see on social media or on Pink Bike, most people aren't just constantly riding lift axis downhill tracks, machine-built jump lines, or even racing at all. The majority of riders are out there just trying to have fun, get some exercise in, and explore new places. Aside from a couple of trail systems near me, the majority of what I ride is multi-use trails that are hand-cut single track or just used and abused by side-by-sides and dirt bikes. The trail surface can be anything from smooth as silk hardpack to creek beds filled with fist-sized rocks and deep sand. Trails like these are where skinny tires and suspension do little to solve the problem, and Plus tires truly reign supreme. They float over the soft stuff, bridge the gaps between those rocks, and they stick like Velcro to every trail surface. Plus tires give you a confidence level on natural cut or unmaintained trails that you just don't get from a normal sized tire. That said, I should also give some credit to the bike industry on the application side, because even though it was used in a negative way, Plus tires really are great for beginners. They create a more stable ride feel with a lot less trail chatter and increase the overall capability of the bike without adding a ton of cost. That's not to say Plus tires are only good for beginners, but they for sure do help. So to sum it up, Plus tires aren't ideal for every application or great for every rider, but I think they've been bashed on a lot more than they deserve. They're great for people who ride the trails less traveled, a wide range of trail surfaces, or are looking to increase their bike's capability without spending thousands of dollars. I just think the industry made a few mistakes that ultimately led to a bad reputation for being heavy, sluggish, and unpredictable. With a little more education on tire pressure and some slightly wider rims, a lot more riders would have had a better time on Plus tires. It's almost like they were 10 years ahead of their time, as these days, even the roadie crowd is acknowledging weight isn't everything and wider tires are a net positive. So if you gave Plus tires a try in the past and you fell victim to any of the things I talked about in this video, maybe it's time to give them a shot again. And if that still sounds terrible to you, at least give credit where it's due. Because without Plus tires, you'd probably be riding around on something much narrower than that beloved 2.6-inch tire that's become so common today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Did Plus tires deserve to end up where they're at today, or did we all jump to conclusions too quickly? If you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe, and let me know what videos you'd like to see in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.